Wow, after 5 days of finding support on the bottom of this ascending triangle, it looks as though Bitcoin is actually trying to make a move up. We'll talk about specifically where this level of resistance, heavy resistance in my opinion, will come in, and if it breaks this resistance, as we talked about in the last webisode, I 100% believe we will be testing 10K again this week, and if we break it, that is 100% the level that we will break 10.5 based on some of these charts. Wow, and as well, that same resistance lining up on these charts, guys, there's a lot going on. We had a little bit of a bearish cross with the 21 going below the 50-day moving average. However, I don't find it incredibly important or relevant at this time. As you all know, we are still eyeing up that situation to the downside to form that on these more macro charts. However, Bitcoin remains incredibly strong still, and we're going to delve more into more patterns that show that. Like this one, 3 months now we've been in this ascending channel, and for the last 5 days we've held at the bottom of this ascending channel, guys. You know, I've been talking about this channel for months, and so far price to the upside and downside has respected these levels, and now we're coming up to a very important point yet again. And as well, halfway through basically this weekly candle, what momentum can we see change throughout the week, and what do we need to look for? We don't have any confirmed breakouts, as you can see on this volume, but I'll tell you one thing. Only two things could happen. We could get a massive breakout or a mommy makeout. Let's do this. Wow, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to a very, very, very mommy episode. We have a lot to get into in this episode with these charts. Finally, we're seeing some movement, and we can actually delve into what this means for Bitcoin's price in the short term now that we're actually seeing something, because there's a lot going on these charts. Some of it's very exciting, and guys, let's be honest, it's still very boring overall. Incredibly boring compared to 2 months ago, even a month ago at the beginning of June and the beginning of May specifically. But guys, things are heating up. I hope you are doing some wise choices with your investments. Not necessarily, in my opinion, this is not the best time to be trading the past week or two. However, I personally think this is a very good time to be allocating funds or just buying in where you think necessary, what coins you think you want to prepare for the next 2-year market, specifically having some really long-term holds, which is my favorite strategy. I usually only trade with a very small 10% max portion of my portfolio. For the most part, I'm much more invested in accumulating over long-term periods, swing trades for the bigger portion of my portfolio, but for the most part, I just want to accumulate as much as I can possible for an actual bull cycle, guys, because bull cycles, absolute, like nothing anybody after 2018 has ever witnessed in crypto. Definitely worth the time. Wow, and congrats to the last winner, guys. If you want to enter for these ledgers, make sure to hit your comment, ding, subscribe, turn on the dings, and we can jump into this webisode. Wowee! So starting here on the weekly chart, we've had 3 consecutive red candles, and we're about halfway through this weekly candle, and as you can see, we have some greens so far. Now, again, we are still in the same exact area that we've been trading in ever since the very end of April. Okay, over 2 months we've been trading in this very same range, 87 to 9,700. That's why everyone is bored. Overall, if you could pick one reason why people are a little less interested right now, you take a look at this chart. Same box, same $1,000 range, basically for the past 2 months. Now guys, as you may or may not know, the longer you consolidate and the longer the volatility decreases and decreases, the more likely the break following that is more and more explosive, the more power it gets, right? So as you guys can see here, the volume is clearly declining ever since basically March. So we had that giant catastrophe candle back in March, and volume has been declining ever since. But make no doubt about it, I definitely think this exactly is what's going to lead to a massive break. Okay, we had a similar thing here back in November of 2018, ascending triangle, and then when the volume started popping off, we saw it here, and it just got a little crazy for basically months and months after that. And that was the run to 14K. So I think a similar scenario now, we're trading even less in a smaller range than we were back then. Most importantly, this time, the main reason it's different is that in this entire pattern, we are at the top of this symmetric triangle as opposed to the bottom like we were back then. Okay, we're at the top of it now. If this is the ascending triangle, basically right here, we're at the top now, whereas we were on the bottom back then. Okay, huge. I definitely also think we have a ton of support below us with insane support around 6,400, which again is my absolute lowest pullback. I don't think we're going to get there. I personally think that the lowest will probably go if we get a pullback and if we get a break to the downside, which I think right now might actually be a little less likely, but I definitely think the mid 7,000s would be a good pullback target for that after breaking 8.8. The biggest by far, I've been saying this specifically for weeks, is if we break 8.8, which is the bottom of this box, which we have not broken. So let's actually switch over to this chart. You can see we've held on to the bottom of this, which has just been critical. I definitely thought, I think we'll break down, and that's why I was saying that for the last few videos. We'll break down to the low 8,000s, like 8,100, 8,200 minimum if we break out of this ascending channel, which we've been in ever since the catastrophe drop on March 12th. Okay, we had that drop, and we've been in the same exact structure for the past 3 months. Now, this is significant, actually almost 4 months now. It's about 3.5, almost 4 months that we've been in this structure. And one of the reasons this is so significant is because once we break this, I think that's going to be a return to volatility, but it needs to break this pattern. And it perfectly lines up with this pattern as well. And this pattern is included in it. So all of these line up. So as for right now, we're still holding along this line, guys. This green line slicing through it is actually the past 2.5 year resistance as well. I have this plotted on 2 different charts. But again, I think this will be a heavy resistance zone. And right now that's right around 9,400. And again, you guys, that's exactly where it is on this chart because they're the same line, just plotted on 2 different charts. And that's where I think we have some room to actually move up to 94 without much in the way right now. So we're getting a bounce, as you can see, for the last few days. We found some support right at the bottom of this ascending triangle. But something interesting to note about this ascending triangle as well is that this ascending triangle in length, if this entire thing would complete, which it usually doesn't, usually breaks out about 70 to 80% of the apex, so 70-80% of it completing. But this would actually take us all the way out to September of 2019. So this pattern is fairly large. Currently, it's only a little over 2 months that it's been trading in here, but it still has the ability to trade in here for another month or so. Now that would be, imagine that. That would be extremely boring for everyone to see that if we're literally going to be going somewhat sideways for the next month. But realistically, I definitely think we could end up bouncing around in this range for another month. And one of the reasons I think that wouldn't be a bad thing at all is because, again, it would make this move much more powerful and explosive. And let's be honest, I think if Bitcoin came up to 10K, within a day or two, I think it would have a lot less juice than if it continued to consolidate, because the longer you stay within these patterns, the longer the volatility decreases, the more explosive it makes the pattern in general. So huge. So this is definitely what we're watching still. So the downside, we want to hold the $9,100 level, and to the upside, I think we're going to be facing some resistance right around like the $9,450 area. But if we break that, I think things could get pretty explosive here. Same thing going for here. This pattern is probably the least valid, I think, out of all 5 of the charts that I have pulled up, because even though this seemed like a falling wedge and it came back and tested this for support a lot of the time, it did not end up breaking as a falling wedge would. It found way too much resistance very early on in the break, right around 97, which again is just a really big, important level right here on the charts that Bitcoin hasn't been able to break for a while. It hasn't been able to concretely break and stay above on the weekly charts ever since February of 2020, so like 5 months ago. So huge, definitely got to watch out for that. We're most likely not going to see volume do too much as long as it's in this ascending triangle, so watch out for that as well. You can see since it's been in this ascending triangle, the volume in general, for the most part, has just been going down and down and down. And again, guys, that seems boring, but that is exactly what we want to see happen before a massive breakout. Now, I think the reason a lot of people aren't talking about this as much is just because this pattern does show that there's still some time that we could be trading in here before we could actually get a real breakout. So again, let's say this lines up with what we talked about last video with the bull run, the bull cycle for the next maybe 2.5, 3 years, starting within like the very beginning, maybe starting within the next month. So let's say that actually happens, and within the next month, we actually start a full-fledged bull cycle that could last 2 years. Now would be one of the best times, if that's true, that has to be true first. If it is, now would be one of the best times in history to be allocating your funds and putting into your positions and making sure you have everything, all your ducks in a row before that happens. Wow, and as well, guys, we talked about this cross, the 21 and 50-day moving averages right here. I think they're going to provide some friction here, mostly because this area where they're at also lines up with those other levels, like the 2.5-year resistance on some of these other charts, like this one, and also this 7-year structure line is right at that same area there. So again, I think all of that's going to line up, and I think this whole area is going to be hard to get above. So basically on this daily chart here that we have on Bittrex, I don't anticipate us really spending a lot of time at 97 above unless we're going to be breaking 10K. So basically what I'm saying there is if we're going to be trading at 97 or 98, I think it's more likely that if we have the momentum to even get to 97 or 98, then we're also going to be testing the 10,000 yet again. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the overhead resistance right now where it was about 9,700 about a week or so ago. Now it's kind of all around that $9,400 level, specifically with these resistances, not necessarily these moving averages. It's huge, guys. So thanks so much for tuning in. I know it's been extremely boring lately. Imagine trying to make a video every day. I feel for everybody who's making videos and putting out content right now because it's pretty boring. Kudos to everybody doing that, you guys. Huge stuff. But yeah, we did end our sale on T4 V3, so we're going to be working and coming out with T4 V4 very shortly. The sale is no longer on for T4 V3 because we're in the process of converting to T4 V4 and adding all that new material. There will be a new sale at the future, but that'll be after a price increase. And as well, guys, if you're interested in finding a new place to get cryptocurrencies, I 100% will say crypto app, the crypto.com app, has been one of the best experiences I've had so far with buying, transferring, selling cryptos. They have over 40 options right now for coins. Huge. And if you use the link in the description, you and I both receive $50 free of MCO when you complete the whole sign up process and everything like that. Huge. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you in the next webisode. Peace.